Yo, guys, it's Kyle coming at you from Bane's Film Reviews. Today, I'm sitting down with Al'Ikens Plancher, the writer, director, and producer, and Timothy Mark Davis, the producer of Konpa, which I think I got correct. It is a fantastic short film that is premiering at Tribeca in New York this month. I was so lucky to get to watch it a few weeks ago. It's this dramatic short film about love and romance and family and so many different things that I think viewers will be able to appreciate and connect with. So thank you so much, guys, for sitting down with me today. How are we doing?
Great, man. Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Awesome,
Yeah,
awesome.
doing well. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And then so before we get into the actual film, I am curious how you got to this place in your filmmaking careers, how it all started and what eventually led you to this.
It's a long story, a really, really, really long story, but I'll just say this. Um, just kind of like I'll just jump midway through. When I decided I wanted to do this for a living, I just Googled everything I can. I'm Google University slash YouTube University filmmaker. Bought the books, look up what books that teach professors are teaching at FS or FSU or USC or whatever, bought them and read those books and whatnot. So that was like my journey. And then from there, that was the art side. But from the business side of things, because I don't know anyone from the in the business. I grew
Mm,
up in Nassau, Port-au-Prince, Port-au-Prince, Haiti. So it's not like there's an outlet or pipeline or anything like that of that sort. So once I kind of got a hang of things, which I don't still, right? I'm still learning. We're all learning. Once I got a hang of things, I was like, okay, cool. Well, how do I start working and actually um, learn, get some experience, some real hands-on experience as opposed to books? So that's when I like applied to internships. And even how that happened was crazy because the idea of working at that time for no money, that was before the whole Viacom thing happened. And I was just kind of like, nah, but I couldn't get any jobs. So I started interning. I interned for like a year plus before I
wow.
got like my first gig. My first gig was like a PA gig. And just from there, just yeah, did the best I can, kept getting hired, different positions and whatnot. And at one point I decided to fund my own stuff, looking for private investors, grants, and whatnot, and start
Mm,
doing my own stuff while I'm, working in the business.
very, very cool. And what
Yeah.
about you, Tim?
Yeah, so definitely a different route than Al. I am born and raised in South Florida and really have a strong theater background. So I have a theater company down here where I'm the artistic director and kind of grew up as an actor first and then became a director and then became a producer. And then probably about 5 years ago started making a transition, or not really a transition, but an addition of filmmaking and into that via film acting,
Mm,
um, working on small independent short films here and there, and then starting to cut my teeth as a producer, producing some micro budget shorts and features, and continuing as an actor. Working on my own directing and writing. So just
yeah.
kind of like multi hyphenate, doing it all. Um, but really, how I got here is because a mutual filmmaker friend introduced me to Al over a year ago, and I think we just hit it off and decided to collaborate and have worked on 3 projects together in the last year now of Al's
Wow.
projects I've produced, and we'll see what's coming next.
That's so cool. Like you said, very different routes, but they led you to the same place, and here we are with this fantastic film. So where did the idea for this film come from, and then how did it end up becoming, how did it end up becoming an actual film, not just an idea anymore?
Yeah, for sure. So like, um, the actual genesis of it came from me telling myself, okay, what's something I can do that will challenge me as a filmmaker? And at that time, I was like a musical. I'm not the biggest musical guy, but I just admire like those set pieces from a director
Hmm.
standpoint. It's just kind of like I'm just in awe of how it's made and the idea of going to work and being able to shoot that. That's it, right? Like, and I was like, okay, cool. Let me just do like a musical short, which I don't think I've ever seen before, and there's
Okay.
a reason why. Personally, I've never seen any of them, so I was like, oh, it just automatically makes sense that I would make one about Konpa, which is well, it's not traditional but modern uh music genre in Haiti, that's forever evolving as we speak, and yeah, and I wanted to do that, and I realized that the money it was going to cost was probably going to get me 2 minutes of screen time. But again, the background, the dancers, everything, and I'm not like I'm a music head, but not musically inclined, I guess you can say. And
Mm.
I just knew the challenges right there was really tough. So I kind of like stripped away the big set pieces. Even though in the film there's a lot of dancing, obviously, but
Yeah.
it's not like choreograph and the crane shots and all that stuff. And I took that out, and the first scene I thought of was the ending, which we're not going to spoil, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, the ending was the first shot I thought of, and then I just went backwards. Literally started seeing what the character, the arc, the end, and then went backwards and try to figure out exactly what led that character there. So yeah, the ending was pretty much the heart, as I feel like, of the musical
Yeah.
I was trying to make. So
That makes sense. That makes sense. If you've seen it, that makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, and so getting into the film, the one of the first things that I noticed, there's probably going to be some cultural division, at least, separating the viewer or a lot of your viewers from the content of the film. And I mean, it was subject matter to a degree that I was unfamiliar with. I was unfamiliar with the
Mm.
style of dance and was unfamiliar with the food that was being ordered. And but you guys do a great job of connecting with audiences anyway through different ways. And so how do you approach that knowing that there's going to be that obstacle for you guys to overcome? And then how do you eventually overcome it? Because I think you guys do very well.
Yeah, Tim, did you want to say something before I grab that?
Yeah, I mean, it's you know that I'm just going to toot your horn. That's why you're asking me to go first. I think something that Al understands, and it's probably one of the reasons why we connected initially, is I think we both have a deep appreciation for the filmmakers and the films that kind of have a Hollywood vastness to them, but
Mm,
never lose their emotional center. They center the human story, they center the humanity, and they know what makes good storytelling. And um, I think Christopher Nolan's probably a great example of this. And Al and I
mm,
both love Christopher Nolan, so there's some shared love there. Someone who can kind of be in that space of, oh, this is commercial, but it's also sophisticated, but it's also
yeah.
emotional. And I think there's something really profound about that, especially when you're dealing with subject matter that will be unfamiliar to your audience because of the
Yeah.
cultural context. Well, there are certain things that will never be unfamiliar. And it's the universal truths of being a human, which
Yeah.
are love, romance, family. Those things are cross-cultural, and being out of touch with one's identity and then finding a way back to one's identity.
Yeah.
Those things are universal themes. And I think Al, whether it's intuitively or whether it's years of him honing his craft, I'm sure it's a combination of both. I think Al, as a storyteller, knows how to do that,
Mhm.
and he does it well, and has done it well, really well in the short form with this story particularly.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Thank you, Tim.
Completely agree.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I agree with everything he said. So I'm just trying to like say something different. The thing I can say that's different is that like I knew going in that I wanted to just do something that I was gonna watch, right?
Yeah.
So at no point did I think about having like a Haitian flag on in there, or having, just, you don't even know they're speaking Creole, Haitian Creole, or anything like that, or it's Haitian food or anything of that sort, because of this universal themes that's weaving through the film that Tim
Mm,
talked about. So I just feel like it was needed, because if I was going to watch it, if I was like turn it on, and I was going to watch it, and it's kind of like just giving us Haitians that feeling of just existing in the media space without saying like, hey, we are this, as opposed to kind of like we are human beings.
yeah.
And from that aspect, so that was my intention going in. So it just so happened that the hone your craft part that Tim talks about that I just realized now is honestly just creating Jean, the character that was your entryway to his own culture.
Mm,
So I did it through character. That's why I didn't feel like I was stopping the film and explaining what this food was and whatnot, because the character can't even pronounce the name of the food. So it's okay, you don't know, right?
yeah.
And you feel like, okay, well, I want to know, and he wants to know, and it keeps on going and whatnot. And so, and also showing that we're not all monoliths, right? So
Mm,
there's the Haitian culture and there's the Haitian American culture, and obviously in this film, it's the Haitian culture and the Haitian American culture joining forces. And from the outside, I might just be like, oh, you guys are all Haitian, but within our culture, there's a lot of there's Northern Haiti and then the South Haiti. It's just
mm.
different things. So I want to bring that up too as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you do little things. I mean, from the opening moments, you do something to connect with the audience. I mean, who doesn't like food? I mean, it's something so
Yeah,
simple, but it's so universally understood, that it immediately pulls us into the film. So
thank
again,
you.
it could have been anything to try and make a connection, but food is such a great choice because really everybody understands food. Even if you don't know what
Thank
that
you.
food is, everyone understands food. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Really quick, Al, something that you said that reminded me, because I come from the filmmaking school of YouTube and books and masterclass as well. And Aaron Sorkin's masterclass on screenwriting, what his exposition section, because I know exposition is a very hard thing for people to deal with, and it's one of the first tells of an amateur writer is bad exposition when they're
Mhm.
sort of telling the audience. And one of his sort of hacks is having a character who is outside of the circumstances coming in, and they fill in for the audience. That person needs to know what's going on. And the nice part about this is that the central character is that person who doesn't know things and can be explained. And so exposition is happening, but it's in a very subtle, nuanced, and non-obvious way. So it doesn't feel like exposition, but you are learning the who, what, when, wheres of everything. So that just like reminded me of like, oh, that's one of those great little screenwriting hacks. It's like, how do I get this information across? Bring in a character who can stand in for the audience and is an outsider, because then you can
Right.
facilitate that type of conversation.
Yeah, and
Facts.
it happens very organically here. So like you
Yeah.
said,
Okay.
you don't realize you're learning, but you are. You're becoming part of the story because the main character is learning as he goes. So
Thank you.
fantastic choice, and it
Thank
really
you.
sets the rest of the film up for success, and it doesn't let anyone down for sure. So you should be proud of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And then I like this idea. So I wouldn't consider Konpa a mystery by any means. I would consider it a drama first and foremost, but there is this mystery element to it because you're finding out as you go along there are new layers to this character, and you're learning more and more about him that you didn't even realize existed. And as it plays out, eventually, like you said, we don't want to spoil anything, but at the end, when that happens at the end, you realize what everything was for. You realize why everything is happening. And so, did you approach this with the idea of it being a mystery at any point? And even if you didn't, how did you weave that in so fluidly and organically in a way that it has people asking for more, even though they don't know they are. They're wanting more, even though they don't know they want it yet.
Thank you. There's just two answers. So um, I'll go with the long one first. Okay,
Okay.
the long answer is that everything was intentional. Obviously, I I that was the goal, right? That was the goal. I just knew that in nature the film is very simple, and I knew
Mm,
that to keep the audience engaged and whatnot, I needed to hold information as long as I could, right?
mhm,
So for example, Minouche could have been the first person that Minouche could have been in the front when the Jean character played by Edson uh, came up, right? And then they could have had that conversation right then and there. But the fact that she came from the back, that gave me a few more seconds to play that scene out and whatnot. And if you watch the film again, I kind of do that a lot, which is kind of like just holding it as much as possible. But honestly, from a technical standpoint, I just wrote it as just one giant scene. It was just this crazy long sequence that I just structured like a scene, and his wants at the beginning, and then obviously what he needs, but his want, and then he finally gets it, and then the payoff, the revelation at the end. It's just pretty long, essentially. That was my goal, and I knew that if I did that as a scene and not looking at the small scenes as scenes, which I ended up doing, then I can do that every mystery that you're talking about. But it's just withholding information as long as you can. Even during post, we had to play with that. I have to shout out my editor, Jonah Quartas, director of My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To. He premiered at Tribeca like 2 years ago as well.
Awesome.
First feature, yeah. And just talking to him and like kind of like when to pull out of scenes and whatnot. So even during post, we had to rewrite it. It wasn't that much, but just kind of like, all right, this is enough. All right, let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one. So that's a long answer. The short answer is that it was budget. It's a short answer. So with budget, it just made me, I wrote it knowing how much I was gonna have in the bank. Another shout out to, it's through the White Elephant Group, which had like a film program, short film program, and I ended up getting selected, and they put first money in, and then I came in afterwards, and I did my half and whatnot. But so from there, I already knew I had a minimum, which was good enough to make the whole film and go through post with it. So when I wrote it, knowing that, I was just kind of like, okay, I need to make this work in one fluid way, meaning, we're not going in the morning. We're not going the next day. We can shoot night for day for night. I can't remember which way is it, night for day, day for night. We can do all those magic tricks or whatnot, but I just knew that going in, it was going to be a night shoot, and we were just gonna like have to make everything fluid, like no changing clothes, and just like little tricks that you learn on the way from making bigger. I've made a bigger short film as far as budget before, and seeing where like certain things were spent, and as opposed to like now it's kind of like, okay, well, I didn't need that really. Just you can change that in the rewrite, as opposed to wait till post, you run out of money. I would do it on the page when it's free.
Yeah, fair enough. And then, so I'm glad that you mentioned that it was a night shoot, because I think that's very important to the film, because one of the things that I noticed was the use of light. So the juxtaposition of light from the store to the club setting, and then finally to the ends, are drastically different from one another. I mean, you have very dingy lighting in the beginning, and then you have this very electric set, full of different lights and energy in a lot of different ways. And why did you choose to use light to juxtapose the different sets and the characters and their tone and the mood? And then how did you pull it off that way? Because they're so drastically different. You see the opposite end, you see the two extremes, and it plays out very well. But how do you manage to do that?
Yeah, I have to give another shout out to Juan Barriga, who was my director of photography. He's DP. He's worked on the last 3 projects like Tim and I have worked on. So I just show him a comp, and I'm like, do it, just reduplicate it, and then he tells me what's the possibilities and whatnot. So it's a very direct way of like, I'm ripping off this painter, I'm ripping off this music video, and I want to do this. Then he talks about the logistics of it and how much it will cost me, and then obviously along the way I have my own voice, my own flair to it. So the story takes place in Little Haiti, Miami, obviously a Haitian community, and so even when no spoiler, but even when he's riding the bike at the end, it is a little different from when he was riding. But it's not the same street, but the same community.
Right.
So all that was super intentional. We knew the middle, we knew the dancing sequence and everything was going to be so vibrant, tropical nightlife, and just kind of like when I close my eyes and think of Haiti and then the night scene in the beach and stuff like that, there's hues.
Mm,
So I knew that already. So from there, once we locked that in, going forward or backwards was super easy decisions to make, right?
mm,
Now, like if you go to hospitals and different home care and stuff like that, there's a certain blue light, but it was like, okay, let's make it homey enough where it is uh, uh, hospice care or something of that sort, as opposed to a hospital with the harsh lights, so
mm,
we can get that yellow glow and whatnot. So yes, everything was super intentional. I give him a lot of credit because I really didn't really go that much in detail, but he just got me. And this was our first time working together as well. But he got me and he never tested anything out. That was the funny
mm.
part. He never tested anything out. But the moment that we did the last scene first, when we did the last scene first, I was just like, okay, I feel safe, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And then, so Tim, I want to start with you on this one. So juxtaposition is a word that I used a lot when describing this film and in my review of the film. Um, so it goes for the light and it goes very much for the set as well. And they all, they play together. The light in this one scene is a very specific way and it plays with the set. And then the next scene, same thing. And then to the end. And there's such drastic change from scene to scene. So I'm curious how you guys collaborate with one another, knowing that there's such a drastic difference and you guys come from two very different backgrounds. How does that collaboration work? And how do you come to an agreement that yes, this is the best for this film?
That's a great question. I think I think it's sort of like, I don't know if I've ever talked to Al about this, but like my my sort of philosophy of collaboration, I think Al already lives by. Um, but whether I am working on a play as an actor, director, producer, or working on a film in one of those roles, I kind of have this philosophy of, obviously you have to take care of your own job. Whatever
Hmm.
your job is, you got to take care of your job.
Hmm.
But once your ducks are in a row and once you're ready to do your job, having the eyes to look around the set and be like, okay, what can I do in my job that makes the job of the director easier, or the costume designer easier, or the gaffer easier, or the
Hmm.
sound easier. So it's kind of having this like selfless attitude, especially in indie filmmaking, when you don't have the budget to fill out a lot of these roles. Everyone is wearing multiple hats,
Yeah.
even if they only have one credit. So I think Al kind of just naturally lived by that. And I view the role of the producer as, the behind the scenes person who makes it happen, obviously logistically, but is like
Hmm.
there to protect the vision of the director, protect it from money issues, protect it from, and we didn't have these problems, but from crazy cast members or delinquent crew members. The producer is there to really like protect the artistic vision of the director
Yeah.
and promote it and bring it to fruition. And I think the thing that Al does that he doesn't have to do, but he does, is that he also involves me in the macro creative decisions, in terms of like, here's the script. What do you think? Do you have notes? Here's the rough cut. Here's the fine cut. Here's the color pass. And allowing
Hmm.
me to be a part of that creative thing, which he doesn't need to do. I'm there to push the project through production and like I just described. But I think he kind of naturally has that, like, oh, how do I make this a more rewarding experience for Tim as my producer? Because sometimes
Yeah.
producing can be kind of dry. It can be kind of business focused, an essential part to any film. But I'm there to protect his vision and promote it, and he's there to involve me in that process to a certain degree. And I think that sort of approach from both of us just kind of helps a collaboration and help that. Certainly there's a cultural divide between us, but I think we have more in common than not.
Yeah. 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 Very, very cool. Al, anything to add to that?
Uh, Not really. I think I was going to add as far as like a location specifically, and how we are able to jump certain places to certain places. It was all the community. It was the Miami film community and at large, and the Latin community at large, and also obviously the Haitian community and the Asian American community. Without that, it was just possible for us to do what we were able
Mhm.
to do at the scale that we were able to do.
Right. Very, very cool. Um, and then so a thing that I hate about some films, and I always go back to Pearl Harbor when I describe this, is pointless romance, just for the hell of it. I mean, Pearl Harbor had the potential to be a great film, and they almost ruined it by adding this love triangle that didn't need to exist. Um, and initially, I thought, uh-oh, that's the way this film is going. And as the film progressed, you realize that this romance is part of a whole. It's not a separate storyline. It's supplementing the main narrative, and it's helping to develop this main character and helping lead you to the finale of this film. So when you go into the film knowing that there's this potential for too many storylines in such a short amount of time, how do you cut down on that, and how do you develop this part and then the whole?
So the short answer is that it was always whole. It was never separated.
Hmm.
It was I don't like that either. There's a movie that I like or love. I mean, a lot of people didn't like it. It's a third part of a trilogy, but this character that I love, that a lot of people love, ends up kissing this girl, and I was like, I didn't need that. um, um, so I'm the same way too. I just don't like the love. I understand it from a studio point of view. It kind of makes sense business wise, I guess, in a way. Why to have a love story right in
Mm,
there, but with me, the love story was with the culture, so therefore
mm,
innately it already did that for me. So that's why like it was whole, because at one point, though I didn't think about it specifically in the way that we're talking about it now, but I was kind of like, oh, I have to refrain. Like when I was doing rewrites, I had to refrain from making this about her and
mm,
him and about his culture, his values, and her values. And both values meaning in the dance floor, um, and obviously the mummy's values as well. Begin the film, and how like the mummy, that's not her values to bring you in and to
mm.
teach you as well. So like they all had their own separate thematic statement in a way you could say. So it's a love story. I mean, I wrote it as a love letter to my culture.
Mm.
So it's just the fact that it was in about that character. Now, if it was a sequel, which is like, hey, come back and whatnot, then yeah, you might get what you don't want. But at that point, I would just make a full love story.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be about something else, right? So to answer your question again, it was already whole. It was already like that. It was already not about what meets the eye. Is just what's actually in your heart and in your mind as far as your country.
Now together, so you said a few times that you've looked at this as one whole thing. You've looked at it as one scene, as one very cohesive story. Now, as you're bringing this to life, is there any point where you realize that parts of this whole don't fit anymore, and you're worried that now the narrative is fractured? And how do you go about addressing that?
Luckily, no. This is the first time I ever shot anything that I got everything I wanted.
Okay.
And it never happened. I didn't know how we were gonna make production at some point, because we're behind and then we're ahead and we're fake behind and we're really ahead, and then we really finish when we are supposed to. So no. So now at this point, this is why Tim talked about like me. I have a very extensive notes process. I do feel very confident about my writing, very confident about my directing, and me as an artist and what I like and taste. But I
Mm,
like to get other people's opinion on the piece just to hear it out, right? And I don't have to take it. So that's where Tim brought it up earlier in the interview, that like I bring him into different things. Yeah, like the editor, well, the editor obviously takes a pass, but other people have passes, and it's comes from my background in TV, to be honest with you. and going through that whole process of like how shows are made and how many cuts there is. Like
Yeah.
there's so many cuts, and by the time it gets to studio network, and then it gets just so many cuts and so many eyes, so many people that are good or not good at their job, but it still goes through a filter. So by the time it gets to your streaming platform or your your television, it's a very refined thing. So once that happens and people don't like it, then to me it's like you did the best you can, right? You went through a
Yeah.
process. So with me, while we're filming it, I had everything shot listed already. So I was like, I can go to sleep because we shot every single thing that was in that shot list, everything that we talked about. I went over it with my DP multiple times. So the fact that that was there, I was kind of like, oh, if it was broken, if it was not cohesive, it was never cohesive.
Right.
I've been lying to myself. So, but the script, we're back to the script. I made sure it's cohesive from the script and not wait. But I can see that happening. I can see that happening like while I was filming, and then it's kind of like wait, but that doesn't, doesn't work. Just giving an idea, an example, insight, the bike scene is way longer at the end. It is like it's like in the script, it is described as something that's long, but it just jumps through time. And that's something that Jonathan Cortus again, we talked about, because I was like, yeah, let's just cut it right there. Lens flare, cut it.
Yeah.
So just to give you an idea, like, but we shot it, and we found out later it didn't work. It wasn't as cohesive at all. It felt like a different movie. And then the ending wouldn't be as touching.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Makes sense. And then, so like I mentioned earlier, Konpa is premiering at Tribeca in just a few days from now. I already had the opportunity to watch it, and I'm really glad that I did. But so moving forward after Tribeca, where are people going to be able to watch Konpa?
So right now we're still working that out. I know that Tribeca at home will have it a little bit after the festival, so you can watch it from the comfort of your home as well. But yeah, I tell people all the time, go follow our production page, which is at Société Productions. So it's society in French. So SOCIETE Productions. It's the same word on Instagram, and we'll keep people updated. But yeah,
Fantastic.
we're hoping to just hit different premieres, right? We have to go international. We have to go to Caribbean, of course. We have to bring it back to Miami, a little Haiti for the community. We have to hit the West Coast. So we'll just do the major stuff, obviously trying to get different markets, and then afterwards we'll just go more specific, whether it's like Pittsburgh, whether it's like Austin or something like that. But yeah, right now it's just Tribeca for now.
Awesome. Well, I mean, Tribeca is fantastic. So
Yeah.
that's a step in the right direction for sure.
Yeah.
And then so both of you guys, Al and Tim, what are you guys working on now, if anything?
Tim, you want to take it?
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, I am I'm trying to figure out where to start. I'm an overextended person, so I'm actually in post right now for my debut feature, micro budget feature, that should be done in a couple months. So just had picture lock confirmed yesterday, so that's gone off to the composer and colorist and sound person. So that's a film, probably 85 minutes. It's about a group of theater people who are trying to make a film during the pandemic to save their theater company. So it's very meta, it's very much write what you know kind of story. So I'm working on that. Al and I, and he'll tell you this as well, but we're in the early stages of development for a feature film. We just shot a proof of concept short for that's in post. That was our third project together, so he can say about that because that's huge. And then I'm in pre-production for another short film, actually by another Haitian filmmaker. We're I know. I was like, what?
Wait, what? This is news. This is Bayfield breaking news. You need to put the breaking news like
Yeah.
flashing. Like this is breaking news to me. Who? I mean, we'll talk, but yeah, go ahead. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Congrats.
all we talk about is Tribeca related things these last couple of weeks, but yeah, we got to catch up. So that's scheduled to shoot in August, and pre-production for that. So a couple different projects going on, and then I got my own. I'm thinking about a short proof of concept, but always trying to do something. But really, my main thing is like Al's feature, which he'll talk about, and then finishing up my own feature and figuring out what the future is for that.
Very, very cool. I look forward to all of them. And now, what
Awesome.
about you?
Yeah, so for me, yeah, we can start with the feature. Feature is called Bold People. Hoping that it will be my directorial debut. It's about it's pretty much about, well, not pretty much about, it is about the it's about a young Haitian woman, refugee that was detained in Guantanamo Bay, and she goes on a hunger strike in hopes to free herself and obviously all the other detainees, Haitians and Cubans alike. So it takes place in 1991. Yeah, it's very drastic from Konpa. And it's black and white. It's one of those like I have to tell stories.
Yeah.
I've always knew about it growing up. A lot of people don't know about it. Every time I bring it up, people, the proof of concept, we, like we said, we finished it. And when I passed around for notes, and people were always like, "Wait, that happened?" It was like, yeah, it was a lot of over 30 something thousand, over 7,000 Haitians took the sea after a coup from an opposition. So a Democratic president got elected, and then there was a coup, and the opposition was actually once backed by the United States government. So when they fled, hoping to reach asylum, Bush and Clinton sent them to Guantanamo Bay, which, if you know anything about Guantanamo Bay, this is before 9/11.
Yeah.
It's there's no rules pretty much, and
Right.
and people, it was done on purpose, and they couldn't they didn't have any lawyers and substantive rights or anything like that because legally they didn't. So the fact that like it was like, oh no, it was just the closest place, bro, really. It wasn't. The Keys are probably the closest place, Key West. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's it's sounds political, but it really is a very much a character driven story about what are you willing to sacrifice and for freedom, and one of the characters, why she did the hunger strike and what was going on during
Mhm.
that time period in the I almost say concentration camp, and the refugee camp, because I mean I guess it
Yeah.
was a concentration camp.
Yeah.
But so that's that. In a lighter note, I have a narrative scripted podcast. It's
Cool.
called Prestige. It's a fun listen. We got selected by Apple as a new noteworthy podcast, which from an indie space. So we made this ourselves as well. Myself and Ray Benjamin, who's a writer on The Witcher on Netflix.
Wow.
Yeah, we got together. We did it. Joseph Fuentes, who's well, uh, great podcast producer. There's a trio, and then we casted all Haitian casts. The sound designer, like the composer, actually composed Konpa as well. And we put it out, and like it was a weekly thing. And then by February or March, our numbers just went crazy. And we were like, "What's going on?" Like, did someone repost it online or something like that? We were doing decent numbers for indie podcasts, and then I would look on my homepage, just look at the reviews, and I
Yeah.
was like, it's on the homepage of Apple, and I was like, yeah, it's probably like geotag. It's like, it's like, oh, well, here, there's a podcast you might be interested in, and then we started asking our friends across the states, and then we found out that the editors, they loved it, and they put it up on our page, and that kind of like blew things up for us. So yeah, just working on season 2 for that. Season 1
So
is
cool.
available now, so you can binge it. Please, I would love to hear your thoughts about it. It takes
For
place in
sure.
1813 Haiti. We had a kingdom during that time period, and it gets a little spicy, messy, if you know what I mean. as far as what's happening during that time period, but it's very fun. And then there's a political element throughout as well, and a big world picture, and understanding that like during that time period, we're the only nation that was free from colonialism, and or former enslaved nation that was free from colonialism. We had a kingdom and whatnot, and understanding like during that time period, there was a lot of extravagant stuff and a lot of like just lavish living, and
Yeah.
we trying to give you guys that experience. So those are the two main things that I would say that's easily accessible for people is both people whenever we do take it out to the film festival circuit, and then Prestige, which you can listen to anywhere, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, right now.
Very, very cool. So you guys are incredibly busy. So I don't know if you guys have time to watch films, but my last question for you guys are what are some of your favorite films?
Ooh, favorite films of all time, just like or just like recently.
Could be recent, could be all time, whatever you got for me.
There's some obvious choices. I'm trying to think of a film that's like not obvious for me personally. I literally rewatched Prisoners again recently.
Fantastic
Uh,
film.
that film really like impacted me back then, and it still impacts me a lot. And it's crazy because I was watching the Duffers Brothers Masterclass, and they told me that was a genesis. Told me they told the world that was a genesis of Stranger Things, which is super interesting because that like I literally my third feature was a ripoff of Prisoners. I
Okay.
still have it. It's like it impacted me that hard that I was like, yo, I'm about to make my own Prisoners, and to know that like Stranger Things came from that. So Prisoners, that's when I would say yeah, and then anything that's Nolan. I'm a Nolan fan through and through. So I guess all Nolan movies
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can say for sure. Yeah.
Well, Oppenheimer tickets just went on sale today, so
Yeah.
yeah.
See, that's the thing. I'm trying to figure out where I'm gonna be in which theater because I got to do the
Oh,
IMAX.
come here.
Yeah.
Come here. 70 millimeter IMAX, Fort Lauderdale. I bought tickets yesterday. Come on, let's go.
Nice.
Very, very cool.
Favorite films for me. I mean, my number one favorite film is The Master.
Okay.
Paul Anderson. I'm a huge PTA fan. Philip Seymour Hoffman is my favorite actor. And I actually started a podcast about all of his films during the pandemic. I got 16 episodes in, just doing one film at a time.
Wow.
And then my life got very busy. So I will finish that, because he's my favorite. But The Master is definitely number one. And then if we're talking about Denis, I mean, Arrival is up there for me too. Just two movies
Arrival,
I can rewatch. Like I think that's the thing with The Master, is like a film that every time I watch it, it's a different experience. It kind of speaks to me differently depending on where I'm at in life.
Hmm.
I just watched The Master probably for the, I don't know, 13th or 14th time a couple of weeks ago, and it was like a different vibe than when I watched it a year or two ago. So
Yeah.
that type of film is, I love that.
So cool. Al and Tim, I want to thank you guys again for sitting down with me and talking about Konpa. Best of luck at Tribeca. I have a review ready. It'll post about the same time as the film premieres on Sunday.
Yeah.
I can't wait for you guys to read that and let me know what you guys think. I hope I hit the nail on the head with everything I said. But again, fantastic film.
So far, you're doing a great job.
Well, thank you. Really fantastic film. I loved every second of it. Best of luck going forward. Really.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much, and yeah, hopefully we'll come back for another project or whatnot and talk some more movie stuff.
I would love to have you guys back. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You guys have a great day.
Thank you.
See ya.